Welcome, Harry, from Aragon. This is kind of something different that I want to try doing more of is really do some of the calls in public that we would normally do, just like kind of one-on-one. Harry reached out and wanted to talk about ZK voting in terms of DAOs, and I thought, what better than to just talk about that in the DAO with all the people that are doing the voting and kind of, experience some of the problems that we're going to experience up front. So Harry, would love to know kind of like a little bit about you, what you're doing, what you're looking for, and then we can, kind of dive into the questions you might have and how we might apply the new voting technology to what we do.
Amazing, cool. Thanks so much for the intro and for having us here. This is also something a bit different for us because we're doing user research at Aragon. This is our first time doing a user research session with an entire DAO. So, a good experience. So yeah, a bit about maybe where we are at Aragon, and then I'll also hand over to some colleagues who are here if they want to introduce themselves. And then we have a bit of an agenda in mind as well for today. But yeah, I'm working in user research and product at Aragon. There's some big things going on at Aragon this year because we're focusing on building kind of a new generation of products over here. So the first and kind of key part is that we're working on a new version of Aragon Os, so the core and smart contracts behind Aragon. The idea is that we want to make this way more flexible and modular so that DAOs can have more granular permission management. The second thing that we're doing is we're working on a new app. So we want to make it way easier for people to interact with DAOs and to have many plugins that can all be connected with the DAO from different organizations, different companies. And then the third thing that we're doing, which is kind of a much earlier stage, really at research stage right now, is that we've been looking into ZK technology and how it could be applied to voting. So this part is really, as I say, research, and we're thinking about beginning to productize that in an MVP. But before we start doing that, we're keen to connect with top DAOs like Sarcophagus and see if there's a real need if we're building the right thing. So maybe I just quickly hand over to my colleagues, Ramon and Carlos and Anthony, if you want to say hi.
I was going to first introducing myself. Hello, everyone. I'm Ramon. I'm leading product at Aragon, product development. And I was going to sort of try to summarize what we're doing, but Harry did this so brilliantly that I'm just like skipping to the next person to talk. But yeah, like product person at Aragon, basically. Carlos?
Yeah. Hey. It's great being here. I think it's the first time like we do this research on direct to the DAOs, which is amazing. So like we all can have something to say. A little bit about myself. I lead in engineering at Aragon and helping all the teams to get all the products that we want to launch on time and with the needs satisfied for everyone. So yeah, thanks for being here, and I think Anthony can be the next one.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Thanks so much, guys, for meeting with us from Sarcophagus. Super excited to hear back from some of you on some of the things we're working on and get some feedback from a DAO such as yourselves that are doing great work. So I'm the head of BD and partnerships, but mostly will be listening in on this. So thanks in advance, guys. Appreciate it.
Cool. And then, for today, we were hoping to kind of talk through a little bit around how your voting experience is today and how you imagine it in the future. And we've got a Miro board, so we can do that a bit interactive. But maybe before we jump into that, I would love to hear a little bit of anyone who's on the call who wants to say hi from Sarcophagus side. And I would also just love to hear kind of what's the state of things at the moment with Sarcophagus in the DAO.
Yeah, Johnny, do you want to take that?
Yeah. Anyway, I'm Johnny. I work with the community and the ambassadors and the team, just kind of help with structure and whatnot. I'm kind of a general do-all guy. And I work with the DAO quite a bit as far as putting up proposals and helping people get that process moving. And if I had to nutshell where the DAO is at now, I would say it's up and running. It's doing great. The only, little thing is just, composability, perhaps maybe connecting it to other apps, stuff like that in the future. Not something we're looking at immediately, but something that I would say would be a good idea to have along those lines.
Yeah, it's something worth noting too that the way that we've structured things is with a hierarchy of DAOs. So we have the main DAO that is run on Aragon. Obviously the result of a vote is automatically executed, which I think is one of the best parts about Aragon and why we chose it as the main DAO structure. And then the sub DAOs that we have are for payroll, the ambassadors who, they have a fund to do community relations projects. We have a growth sub DAO now that just launched to handle, BD and growth initiatives. And then we also have a liquidity sub DAO. Where we place liquidity in the Uniswap that's owned by the protocol. So the main DAO is Aragon, and then all the sub DAOs are running on Gnosis multisigs with different signing mechanisms, right? So the payroll sub DAO is a 4 of 30 multisig to make it fast and easy, whereas the liquidity sub DAO is a 5 of 7. I'm not sure what the ambassadors is. Maybe it's another 5 of 7. And then we've got some other things, like we've been playing with ERC20 tokens, like giving someone an ERC20 token with a decimal of 0. So like we'll create 100 tokens and they have a decimal of 0, so they're indivisible, but they are fungible. So that token allows you to have payroll votes. So there's all sorts of shit like that we've been trying. But I think we're getting to the point now where we really need to start systemizing like how it's going to grow. And, without getting too far into the weeds of different signature thresholds for different multisigs. But I mean, we need that, right? We need payroll to move faster than liquidity. So I think that's something very much worth noting up top here is that we're mixing together a lot of different systems right now.
That's cool. It sounds like you have a great design in mind. And I think also that totally goes in line with what we want to build in the next Aragon Os, something that's way more modular, suited to sub-DAOs with different permissions and different processes. So yeah, when we get to that stage, I hope we can talk again. Maybe you guys would try it out as soon as it's ready. Cool. And I'm keen to hear also a bit. Can you tell us a little bit about the community? Like how big is it? How big is the active part? How many people participate in voting? How many votes do you have, and what kind of proposals go through?
Mainly, currently. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Zach.
I was going to say, I don't know if is push to talk still a thing. I don't. All right. So I think that I like to think of the community as like concentric circles, and with the core of it being, the people that work on this full time, spreading out to people who work on this part time, people who work on this but they haven't earned any money yet, and then just general supporters. But I think we're up to 10, maybe 10, 20 people now in that core group of people that get paid to work on this. And then, going out from that, it just gets bigger. I'm sure Johnny can tell you more exact numbers, but we don't really have like a hierarchy of people within it yet.
As far as exact numbers, if I had to take a guess on like how many people are voting, I'd say somewhere around 100 people in any one particular vote. Like we took a slice. But like you said, there's probably 20 or so people in the core group that, vote every single time and are a part of every proposal. So, yeah.
Well, a quick follow-up to that. What are the kinds of proposals that you guys are voting? And maybe after that, how are the signers of those sub-DAOs elected? And I guess they are part of these core members, right?
Yeah. So
Yes.
In terms of what things we're voting on, with the main DAO, we're voting generally to fund sub DAOs or large projects, right? So since there is a gas cost of it, and that gas cost is significant depending on the network network volume, we generally vote to fund sub DAOs or vote to confirm things. So kind of leading into your question about how people get chosen for signers as sub DAOs, generally we'll do suggestions like miniature elections where people say I want to do this. Everyone says, all right, that person's been around for a while. That sounds good. And then finally we vote from the main DAO to confirm that those people are part of that multi-sig. But reality, what we do is we just fund that multi-sig with, say, whatever the initial allocation amount is that's already been built with those people. So we heavily encourage people to use ENS so that we can see on all the Gnosis stuff and all the on-chain stuff, which specific people are being voted in or are in control of this sub-DAO. But yeah, from the main DAO perspective, we really only vote to fund sub-DAOs to do major things like paying our partner Decent Labs for a quarter of work at a time. So it's $250,000. So we generally only make votes in there that are very large, and then we leave the smaller, more faster votes to the sub-DAOs. So like in the case of the liquidity sub-DAO, we had to take USDC, swap it to Ethereum, and put it into Uniswap as an LP. So that took how many transactions? It was like 5 transactions, I think. And they're all synchronous, right? So we can't do one without the other. So we had to go through and have 5 separate votes on Gnosis, which is a pain in the ass. So like that's something that I'm very interested in here is like how we key up a queue of votes versus just having, everyone needing to sit by their computer for the next 2 or 3 hours while we finish this thing all together.
Totally. And I'm glad to say we sort of have a solution for that. But before we talk about that, just to better understand, when you say the sort of elections, is this a proposal run in the main DAO in any off-chain solution like Snapshot? Is this a proposal on the Aragon DAO without any action, or is this an actual proposal that will execute adding an address to a Gnosis safe?
I think it's actually been all of those things before. So most recently, I think we've done the vote for the liquidity sub-DAO was pretty easy, meaning we proposed people just in Discord using little emoji voting. And those people were known builders or investors, right? They're like one of our investors at Inflection. So that was a pretty easy one. Everyone knows that the sub-DAO that controls liquidity is going to be a lot of the same people that invested. It makes sense. But for things like the ambassador sub-DAO, I think we see more of like the proposal stuff because we need to get to know people, right? So Johnny can speak more onto how the voting works on the ambassador sub-DAO, but yeah, sometimes it is a proposal that comes up. We used to use Snapshot. Pretty much now we've just been using Discord and then talking about it on Discord and then having the final vote, because I don't think we're at a place where we don't have enough voters and we don't have enough contention. So most of the votes don't really go through a lot of discussion, maybe a little bit back and forth, but nothing where we're worried that it's going to be like a 51%, 49% vote. You know what I'm saying? Like we kind of solve the problem before it gets there, but as we grow, that's going to happen. Hopefully, right? We always want contentious votes. We don't want everything to pass. So yeah, it's generally the main DAO will do a proposal. That proposal gets enacted when the DAO votes complete, and when that vote is completed, that is always executed completely from the main DAO. But then the sub-DAOs are always a little different. A lot of just loose discussion on Discord. Sadly, I think it should be better than that. But shit, I mean, voting for every little thing with a hardware wallet is annoying, totally. Even if it's gasless.
Yeah, fully agree. And does the DAO still do some product work for the protocol itself, changing how the product work, or is like the product is there and the DAO is only working on parameterizing or doing something else? How is the DAO nowadays relating to the product that is out there?
Yeah, so the DAO controls everything that's possible. There's some things that I very much want to start trying to hand over to the DAO, like say the sarcophagus.io domain name. Currently, there's no way for a DAO to own a domain name, right? So we or to control its DNS, which is, again, something that needs to be built, something that's hard to build, something that's coming. So our goal is to have the DAO control absolutely everything. There is no company here. So there's no Sarcophagus product without this DAO, because the DAO does own everything. But again, it's a little different because we're fully open source and unlicensed. So really the community owns everything and it's all free forever. We just have the people that we're paying to work on it and make it better. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, it answers.
Great. So, by the way, I know that we have quite a few people on the call. I wanted to just drop. Can I drop into the chat a link? Can you do that with a meeting?
Yeah, go
Yeah,
to the
you can.
meetings
There's
where you were.
a.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I would say there's a little side bar that you can drop links in, or if you want, since this is a public meeting, you can just drop them in the general chat.
Okay. I've dropped it in here, just in the meeting chat. So yeah, if anyone wants to come in and add thoughts as well. I don't know if people are in pure listening mode or if you want to participate. Also, feel free to just add in any points.
Just have a quick question. Do you guys have any? It sounded like you have no legal wrapper. Is that what I got from you? Were saying no company at all, or is there still a legal wrapper around the parent DAO, main DAO, or around each sub DAO, or just no legal wrappers? Just out of curiosity.
No, we've got no entities whatsoever. All of the entity stuff is taken care of at the user level. So like every major holder of Sarcophagus has a entity in which they own their Sarco tokens. But the collective entity of Sarcophagus itself does not exist. It is purely a DAO. The investors, when they came in, they signed. You can see it on Aragon. They signed an agreement to place money into a DAO with the address of it being an Ethereum address. So yeah, there's no Cayman's Foundation, no Delaware C Corp, none of that shit.
Cool. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, actually, since you mentioned the Aragon part, it would be cool to hear which parts of Aragon are you using at the moment, and yeah, in general, like how are you finding it, and what are the things that you're missing right now?
So I'm a big fan of Aragon. Like I think I told you guys, Luis Quende, the founder of Aragon, was the first dollar into Sarcophagus. He wrote the first. Like he wasn't the first person to sign the thing, but he was the first person to send his money. So it was very cool to have his support. What I like the most about it and what we use it the most for is votes that are very big. Votes that we don't want to have any execution risk. So one of the biggest parts about why we used it from the beginning was that when a vote succeeds, it is executed. So that's really what we use it for, is like if we're going to be doing something like a funding round, we build a swap contract that the second it receives the Sarcophagus tokens from the DAO, it's able to swap them to a whitelist of investors. So that is really cool because once that vote completes, we know those tokens are going to move. There's nothing anyone can do about it. I like the public execution where you can have everyone vote and then one person come through and execute. So yeah, we mainly only use it for voting, and it's almost like not a bank account, but it's mostly used for holding value and then transmitting it out to other places. Very little. I mean, there's no discussion that's happening on there. We put proposals on Arweave links and drop them into the voting thing under the finance module. But other than that, that's really the only time we use it. It would be cool if there was an ability to use it for smaller things that were faster, with the gasless voting and whatnot. But thus far, the usability of Snapshot is just so easy, and we don't have to build transactions with the command line. The command line transactions are very advanced. So yeah, I think we're really only using it for big stuff where we're really, really paying attention to everything that's going on.
Very cool. Yeah, earlier you mentioned you would love things to be more composable and to connect to other apps. What kind of other apps are you using that you'd like to connect with?
Well, I think it's things like Curve, right? Curve, Uniswap, even Gnosis itself, right? So the ability to build a transaction almost in the way that you would use Etherscan with your wallet connected to it. You know what I'm saying? Where I can call an individual function, or maybe I think someone has a transaction builder. I forget who it is, but like the ability to go in and say, all right, I want to approve. Yeah, so like I want to approve this ERC20 token and I want to swap it. Let's do it all in the same transaction. But, that requires some building. So I think it's cool to have apps that are integrated with the system where, it's kind of got a wrapper on it. But I think the coolest thing would be if we could use apps that weren't integrated that kind of work more like an Etherscan link. When you connect your wallet to Etherscan, you can do so much. And I think that's really cool. And we don't have to build a front end for it or anything. So I'm just wondering if there's something there where we could do more transaction building and then sign them all at once rather than needing multiple signatures, having them time out. People are out of town, that kind of thing.
This will be part of the new product that we are building. Exactly a transaction builder, and not only like a transaction builder, but we are also talking to the Ethereum Foundation to try to create better standards for contract commenting on smart contracts in a way that this contract builder can provide much more information to the human trying to build the transaction, not being a tech savvy person that fully understands like smart contracts. So yeah, we are addressing this in this new product for sure.
Is there?
That's awesome.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask real quick. Are you guys looking at a snapshot integration? I know Genosis, I think they did it, but basically allows you to do signal voting gaslessly because signal votes don't like control anything in the DAO anyway. I was just curious if you guys were going to do something like that, like a gasless signal vote or using like snapshot.
With the way the new product is going to work, the idea is that any developer, any company, any protocol can start creating plugins for it. This can be Snapshot, this can be Aragon itself, this can be Sarcophagus, this can be anyone. We do have a similar product to Snapshot called Aragon Voice that we want to create a plugin for the product. But that being said, Snapshot is a really good product, and it's absolutely one of the priorities once we have the product ready that we talk to them to create this integration for sure.
Okay, thank you.
That's probably a good segue into talking more about voting. So one of the things that we wanted to talk with you about is like, what are the priorities for you in terms of voting needs? And we figured, since there's a lot of people on the call, what better way to talk about this than a vote? So if you're able to come to the Miro link, then we can do a vote in here. Are people able to find it?
Yeah, for anyone who's looking for, I was just at the top right corner, there's a little chat icon at the very top right inside the meetings room.
Sorry, I can't talk, and I'm on mobile, so I can't talk and use that at the same time. But I think this is exactly one of those situations where, like, I'm in my car, I can talk on the phone, I can do a lot of stuff, but if I need to sign a transaction right now, it's just not going to happen. So I think that's something that's very important or very different here, is maybe even the ability to delegate some voting to a secondary address where it's tied with ENS, right? Like an ENS subdomain would allow, like if you have an ENS name, any address tied to its subdomain would also be able to vote. So that way I could have like a mobile wallet that doesn't have much value in it that I can vote for some things with. That kind of stuff could be super useful here.
Very cool. Yeah, this is one of the options. So yeah, I don't know if people are gonna, I don't think you're able to join the meeting. Okay. Well, we can just discuss it instead. So like there's a couple of different voting topics that we've heard come up in the past. So one would be, for example, sub-DAOs, enabling voting in sub-DAOs based on where you are. Another one would be more granular governance, permissions management, kind of related. Off-chain voting, another topic. Off-chain voting with on-chain execution, another topic. Anonymous voting, and delegated voting, a little bit linked with what you were saying. So first of all, we want to ask two questions, is like, of these, which are the most important for you today? And then we'll talk about which do you think are interesting in the future as you grow. Of these, are there any that jump out to you as kind of really, really important for you today?
I think sub-DAOs, yeah.
Yeah, what do you imagine here? Like, how would you like the voting to work with sub-DAOs today?
I think the ability for people to easily see what the parameters are, right? Where if if this is a 4 of 30 or an X of X, like to see, what is needed. And then there's also the issue of like, if there's 7 people and we need 4 to vote for this to carry, there's not really any incentive for someone to be number 3 or 4, So like by the time I go get my wallet out and plug it in and vote, maybe someone's already voted and it's completed. So I think the ability for us to offer incentives or even like rebates or payments or whatever to the people that do vote. So yeah, I think one of the issues with the sub DAOs is we just need quicker votes. Even if they're yes or no, we just need to get through something. And right now, like the sub DAOs don't have timeouts. Like that'll just sit there until we try to do another transaction unless we reject it. So yeah, I think the sub DAO voting just needs to be clear, time gated, where, we do need to move on if something doesn't work. And then just incentivize. I think that's the biggest thing. Like we're working on a system to incentivize votes for the main DAO, but for sub DAOs, it would be nice to have a little pool of capital there, or Sarco or whatever, to say, for every vote that you complete, when it comes up, you get 100 Sarco, 500 Sarco. That would really incentivize people to be on top of it.
Interesting. Why do you think people need the incentive? Like, what's the reality today?
I think it's just purely, it takes time, right? So you're asking people to participate in a business unit, and the proposal may not have anything to do with them, but they're being asked to be near their computer and to vote on something. So I think the incentive would get people to vote faster rather than like vote because they have to. We want people to want to participate in this, but also like it's still like, I don't like the altruistic way that a lot of the DAOs do it of like, do your part, be part of the community. You need to do labor. It's like, no, if you do labor, you should get money, Yeah,
it makes sense. Cool. And how about the other ones that we show on the screen here? Are there other voting topics that you see as a priority today, or nothing else?
I think permission management kind of falls under sub DAOs for us personally, because that's where our permissions lie, is giving people, just enough reign so that they can help get, a group of people, that is, giving them just enough reign so that they have permissions to execute stuff in, for the DAO, like the sub DAOs do. The off-chain voting would be, like I mentioned earlier, would be cool for signal votes and whatnot, because we do, like we do in Discord, we do a ton of emoji voting, which is like the same thing as a signal vote but off chain. So it would be cool to have a, besides Snapshot or something, have a gasless way to vote that's centered in the DAO. That way we're not just scattering our platforms like, hey, we're doing this, run over to Snapshot or run over to Discord. It'd be cool just to have that ability in that same place where all the votes already take place anyway.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of gasless voting. Like, I think votes should have consequence, and like something needs to be recorded. So, I think Snapshot works really well for like when projects have kind of more of a style where a successful vote gives the team a signal for them to build something. We're not like that. A successful vote activates something we've already built, kind of like Tezos.
Yeah.
I was more referring to like the approve this group before we vote on it kind of thing, a pre-vote circumstance, not necessarily like a final vote.
Definitely, and I think that's where the emoji voting on Discord, I think it has the same weight as Snapshot voting, and everyone's already there anyway, right? Like, what was the app we've been playing with, the DWork app that has the Discord integration? Like, that shit is nice. Like, we all know that it's not going to be executed, but it lets us get a good view very quickly about, what people are thinking on this topic.
Very cool.
Yeah, I actually think about this a lot, because like many DAOs are using a Snapshot for like signaling. Like they only do signaling in the Snapshot. They don't do anything else because, well, you cannot do binding execution, right? So like allowing you to create draft proposals inside of Aragon, it's actually something that I think is very valuable. And those drafts don't have to be like only for you. It could be for the whole DAO to read and participate while you draft it. because like normally it's only one person that drafts the proposal, and the rest just vote yes or no. But no one has like people don't participate in the proposal directly. They just discuss on Discord, and I think having that in a more public manner, it actually could help a lot of DAOs to make better proposals and maybe even like define them better.
Cool. Well, yeah, sounds like good ideas for us to work on from Carlos. Okay, maybe just to finish up this part, is there anything else, these remaining 3, off-chain voting with on-chain execution, anonymous voting, or delegated voting, that you think is needed today?
The delegated voting thing, I was thinking more in the way of like how you could delegate to another address to have more of a hot wallet, or like if you're in a VC firm, you could delegate to one of your interns' addresses to like give them the power to vote on proposals, because like all of our investors are running multi-sigs for their wallets, so like our investors aren't going to run a multi-sig to contribute to another multi-sig. It stacks up labor too much.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of delegated voting, it's less of allowing one person to choose from multiple people and more of allowing one person to play with their security profile and delegate a vote to someone that they trust. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anonymous voting is also very cool. I don't know how well it works with stake weighting vote or a like kind of token weight votes, mostly because you'll be able to see how much they have in the governance app, and you can just match it that way. But I think there is something very interesting that something happened when we were discussing adding liquidity, where we had someone come in and pump up the token before we added the liquidity and then sell the token after. And they knew exactly when the transactions were going to happen because we had to do them one by one with the sub DAO. So they knew exactly when the liquidity was going to get added. They knew for sure it was going to happen. And it was very easy for them to extract. They probably got 40, 50 ETH from us purely because they knew exactly when the deposit was going to happen. So if there would be a way for us to confirm something that was going to happen, but not confirm when it was going to execute, maybe have it execute randomly within a given period, kind of like a cow swap thing, that is very interesting to me. I don't know if this is an issue that other people are having or not, but I think of it as kind of like extractable value, where someone who's good at math is paying attention here, and they're saying, oh shit, like I have the ability to make some money and take some risk. And that ended up with us losing some ETH, which I hate losing ETH for that kind of shit, but we opened ourselves up to it. So this isn't really anonymous voting. It's more of like it's a randomized voting, a randomized execution, which I think could become a bigger issue in the future.
Interesting. Carlos or Ramon, have you seen any cases like that?
So I've seen like random cases where basically if you do optimistic proposals, they will like if you do optimistic proposals, once you get through a threshold, you can execute the transaction directly, right? So like there were some DAOs that had this optimistic proposal system that once they got to a threshold, like the vote passed and then executed something, and people created with flash loans the proposal and funded the proposal with all the flash loan funds that they had, like they could get, and basically passing the proposal directly without anyone else having to vote, and then draining the DAO that way, because they could just flash loan millions of tokens directly and then funding them back. And yeah, that was like one of the biggest attacks I've seen on DAOs, and it's pretty crazy. It's
That's
different
wild.
case, but yeah,
so
it's very crazy.
They flash loaned for the snapshot block that's okay. And Aragon prevents that, but you can do it with okay. Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, it didn't happen with Aragon, but it's pretty crazy. Yeah,
it's like I talk about Aragon a lot just because the structure that it was built it does solve so many of the problems. It's just slow and clunky, right? Like it's slow and clunky because it solves all these problems, right? So like you can't really do backward stuff. You can't change anything. Like, I mean, that's why we chose it, is because it's super, super robust. But I think you guys are very much doing the right thing and trying to change it up and compete with, all the DAO tooling out there. Like, I mean, our development partner, Decent Labs, they've built Fractal DAO, which you guys should definitely check out, where it's sub DAOs within sub DAOs within sub DAOs. So like fractalizing things and making it easier to build larger organizations. Colony is doing a bunch of stuff. There's just so much out there. But I don't like, to me, composability will win. And I don't want to be into any structure where we can't easily move somewhere else. So I think that's I'm very excited to see how you guys try to compete and build something interesting here.
Yeah.
I had a quick question on just before we move off of the DAO features thing. And this is something that I've actually been looking at in bits and pieces a lot lately, with the whole like bridging and multi-chain ideas popping up a lot more. Is there any plan in the future, because Sarcophagus at some point will be starting to look to expand its token supply, to move some of its token supply onto L2s so that the tomb can operate on those L2s more cheaply. And that brings to mind, for me, I'm like, those people who are on Avalanche or on Polygon should still have an ability to vote, since their token is still part of the original supply. So my question is, will you guys in the future have a way to reflect voting weight across the different chains? Like if somebody votes with 100 Sarco on Avalanche, you can still see that voting weight on the Ethereum chain as 100 tokens.
It's a really good question, John.
So answering that, that's kind of like the new attempt that we are trying to do with OVote. It allows you to create your own census based on the parameters that you like, and you can more or less be changing that census. You need people to sign for it, but it allows you to create census from tokens from different chains. It allows you to create census for different tokens at the same time. So let's say that you want to do a proposal with another DAO and let them vote as well. You could do the census for different chains and different tokens at the same time. And
a couple minutes, maybe we can jump to that. Do you want to spend a bit of time explaining the OVote system?
Yeah, I mean, it is more or less what I was doing, right? Like creating this census that allows you to then vote in these proposals is super flexible. And even though you have to sign for it, like you have to sign literally to get into the census, it allows you to have super flexible voting in a way that, as I was mentioning, it allows you to have many different tokens in the same proposal and different chains also, and even like random people that you want them to participate because they have been participating in other projects and they're like super valuable, their opinion or whatever. It's up to you, really. Once you have that census, you can create the proposal with that census and people will be able to vote for it gasless. And then you still have to, you can still like check the validity of all the votes. It's not closed in a database. It's in an L2. And then execute the vote with a validity proof on chain, the chain that you like, doesn't matter, and execute the transaction based on that. So you still have binding execution, you have gasless, and you have a custom census. The only issue is that you have to get into the census. It's not like it's automatically done. You have to actively go and sign to participate in it. But yeah, it allows you, what you were asking, it allows you to vote from different chains and different tokens.
Yeah, I think, Carlos, you mentioned there's three things, right? The multi-chain, the off-chain voting with automatic on-chain execution, and also it could be used for anonymous on-chain voting as well, right?
Yeah, well, I didn't mention the anonymous part because like it hasn't been spoken yet in the conversation. But basically, for anonymity, you have to, like, it doesn't scale the same way. So you will need to put your transaction on chain, and you will have to vote the same way that you do with Aragon right now. You still have to place an on-chain transaction, but the good thing is it allows you to have anonymity, and you wouldn't see who's voting on what.
Yeah.
The on-chain requirement being so that you can generate the zero knowledge proof.
You generate the zero knowledge proof off chain, but you have to submit it on chain for anonymity.
Okay.
I was wondering of these.
Still, you can do it in different chains.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions to clarify more about that?
No, I'm good. This all makes sense. It's still kind of an edge case. Like all of our value for the foreseeable future is going to live on Ethereum, and then be bridged out to other assets or bridged out to other chains. But it would be nice to be able to have those people able to contribute something. I just think it's I don't think we're ever going to see a thing where 90% of our value is on Optimism and 10% is on Ethereum. I think it'll be the opposite of that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, one of the things we wanted to ask is like, right now this OVote project is at a really early stage at Aragon. We're just in the research phase, and we're thinking about like where to take this technology, where like how to productize it, what should we focus on. So we wanted to ask you of these three main areas: the on-chain anonymous voting, the off-chain voting with on-chain execution, or the multi-chain voting. Which one do you think is the most interesting for us to, the most interesting for you, and then we can discuss about it a bit more.
I like on-chain voting. I just think it's satisfies the purpose of what we're building here, of finality and robustness. So yeah, how to do anonymous on-chain voting. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but that can only work with one address equals one vote. It can't work with token weight voting, but maybe I'm wrong.
It does. It does work with weighted as well in our case. That said, the weight you choose the weights on the census, but of course, if each person has a different weight, then you're missing the point, because you will see that this person voted with this much power, and only one person has that amount of tokens in the census.
It's like doing a mixer with not enough people, right? Like if
Exactly.
the anonymity set, exactly. So it just doesn't solve the anonymity thing. I really, really like it for one person equals one vote, but as we know on the internet, it's very hard to prove that one person isn't two people. It's actually impossible to prove that one person isn't more than one person. So I think there's a bottleneck there. But again, as we start doing more ENS integration stuff, we could get better at that. We're the people who are allowed to vote are ones that we know who have been in the ecosystem before, purely because we've traced them on chain. It's cool, but a lot of the benefits of anonymous voting kind of get thrown out the window if there's 50 people voting and everyone has a different amount of tokens. It's going to be very easy to pin those down on who is who. Yeah.
Do you think that's the case in Sarcophagus community?
Because there's founders, there's investors, there's ambassadors, there's builders. It's going to be pretty obvious, but I think that's the issue for everyone. The real use case, or I think the most interesting use case of anonymous voting, is for contention. And like I said earlier, we want contention, but we know that someone who is contentious against a vote doesn't want to sway the boat. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to be seen as someone who shoots things down. So I think the ability to vote anonymously negatively, or to bring up proposals that are kind of dangerous, to bring those up anonymously would be very cool. So say I bring up an anonymous proposal that doesn't seem like it comes from me, but everyone likes it, right? Are people voting on proposals because they're coming from me, or because they like the content of the proposal? I think that's where the anonymous voting stuff gets really, really cool. But again, if it's token weighted, there's no real way to if you can see the token amounts in and out of the vote, then it's, if it can be de-anonymized, then it's not really worth it.
Yeah.
There's one way to somewhat, like, it's not exactly the private voting, but it gets close enough. That is like getting all the votes. Like whenever people are voting while the proposal is on, you don't get to see what other people are voting at all. You don't see the other people vote, so that doesn't change your opinion on what's going to happen. And after the vote is complete, then you see all the people, like what each person voted. That's one of the possible solutions that you can have there, which is shielded voting, basically.
Okay, so we've said that multi-chain voting at Sarcophagus is kind of an edge case for now. The on-chain anonymous voting is like, it wouldn't ultimately be anonymous because it would be able to kind of figure out people probably. How about the off-chain voting with on-chain execution, automatic on-chain execution?
Even though I personally like off-chain just for small decisions, I would never want to see an off-chain vote executed on-chain personally.
Yeah, I think we'd really have to get into like how specifically that works, where that data lives prior to it being submitted to the chain. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like whose server that's on and everything. So I think it's a leap, right? Like we have to do a leap from Web 2 to Web 3 there. And I don't have an issue with it. It's just we'd really have to know more about it before trusting that.
Cool. So what would be the questions you would make in order to figure out if you can trust it?
Where the data lives, when all of these people are voting and when the transaction's put in there that's going to be executed, where all that data lives, how to prove that the data that was compiled and agreed to off-chain is the exact same data that is put on-chain, who runs the gas for it. Like, for example, right now, we use Utopia for payroll, and Utopia like covers the gas fees, which I don't like because that means that if they go away, like our software is not going to work anymore. So a way for it to be decentralized where we're paying the total cost of what's going on. Because the fact of it is, if we're going to do anything on chain, it's going to cost money. There's no way around that. So yeah, I think where the data lives is the most important. How that data lives forever. If this is something that, like, say Aragon goes away and the front end's gone, what do we do? Yeah, and really the proof too, to make sure that off-chain, the proposal we voted for off-chain is the exact one that got put on-chain. And I think that's kind of hard to do. But again, I'm not overly technical, so those would be my questions.
Very cool. Yeah, this is super insightful.
So if I can say something about our case right now, what we are building, it's open for you to store the data in your own node. So you can be the relayer. You can be the one that gets informed of everything. And what I mean you is, I mean personally you, because like anyone can run their own node and store that information. That way you know that no one is like tampering with the votes or the data availability of the data, like what will happen with that data in the future. Also, another solution.
When you say node, do you mean an Aragon node or an Ethereum node?
No, it's not an Ethereum node. It's like an OVO node. It's a little bit different. It's a small piece of software. That said, if you don't want to run your own node, I would say as long as each party that in both parts of the vote have one node, like you're good, because like they are incentivized to get all the votes. But if you don't trust a solution or if you don't want to run your own nodes, which is completely fine, you can still use CK rollups to store all the votes. That's not implementing right now, but like it's technically feasible. So you could use CK sync or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's still kind of out of my range in terms of technical. But yeah, I just think that would be my biggest concern. Like I would always rather just pay gas than deal with it. But hey, I mean, it's if the math is right, then it's right, and we should use that.
Yeah, like this way is a little bit as what you mentioned. Like it allows you to be governed by yourself and no one else. That said, if you don't want to be governed by yourself, you can also have like other solutions like CK rollups. That's up to you, up to your project, and up to like the whole community. It's about giving the opportunities, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's super cool.
Cool. This has been super insightful. Like this is already giving us a really clear idea of, what are the questions that we have to respond to and have to make sure are covered if we go down this route. So yeah, I think this is great. I don't know, Carlos, if you have any other questions on your side for the Sarcophagus team.
All good from me. Thank you.
Awesome. And yeah, anyone from Sarcophagus team, if you have any other questions or things you're curious about from your side.
Really just one thing. Thank you guys for participating in this way. I know it's a little bit different. But I think I just want to kind of end up with one of our biggest struggles is just software spaghetti, where we have a bunch of different things that we try and maybe they don't work out, like, using Snapshot for certain things. And, it's very hard to move from one of these to another and requires a lot of setups and votes and coordination. So I think also like even just the ability of notifications of, this vote will be batched with other votes. So when people have their wallets out, they can do them at once. That kind of thing. Because we're still with this like Web3 thing where Web3 doesn't have any notification powers. But if that's something we can do, it'd be very useful. Other than that, I think, again, thank you guys for coming and talking to us, and let's do it again. We're here to help, and we definitely want to keep using whatever software you guys are building.
Amazing.
Thanks
so much.
for talking to us.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I was just going to say thanks for talking to us and answering our questions and whatnot. It's been insightful both ways here. I appreciate the info.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's been so fun. I really think this is a good way to do sessions. And yeah, thanks for being open to talk again. Maybe when we're a bit further ahead with the new products that are coming out, we could, make sure that you're the first on the beta tester program, and yeah, see if you're interested, and we can even do like some sessions together with different people in the community.
Sounds great. Well, thanks for your time, guys.
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate you meeting with us.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Y'all have a great day.
Jump off. Talk to y'all soon. See ya.